Hello and welcome to the Print Dashboard, our fortnightly adda where we discuss the world of automobiles. And like always, we have in our studios Kushan Mitra, the Print's auto expert. Welcome, Kushan.
Thank you, Anurag.
So we have a recent ban that has been announced on pre-BS6 diesel vehicles, and the pollution levels in Delhi NCR are also rising. So they are linked, and to understand that and put that in context, Kushan will take us through to the nitty-gritty.
So, when every winter we have bad pollution in Delhi, and we have all these schemes that come up. Now, these are part of something called the Graded Response Action Plan, or GRAP. And part of that plan this time has involved not odd even, as we know we've been used to for many years,
right,
but a system where pre-BS6 diesel vehicles, so BS4, BS3 vehicles have been banned from operating on Delhi roads. This is a very specific to Delhi plan. It's not NCR as yet.
Okay.
It probably will become NCR. And while I've been out on the road today to come here, for example, I've seen some of these pre-BS6 diesel vehicles operating. I guess as this ban carries on and it's implemented, many people will stop using diesel vehicles. Now, I have little idea of how they will implement this ban. Of course, you can go after vehicles now. New vehicles all need to have a sticker, and the sticker color is determined by the fuel you use.
Right.
So if you have a blue sticker, it's a petrol car or CNG car. If you have a orange sticker, it's a diesel car. I think a CNG car has a white sticker. Electric cars have either white or transparent. So it's all very confusing. Different states have different colors as well.
Right.
But overall, I think this is a movement against diesel in India, you're seeing, and with this ban, at least in the NCR, at least in Delhi, if you need to move around, you'll need to get a petrol car. And you're seeing that as well, even in demand for vehicles. Small cars, diesel demand has completely collapsed.
Because we have been reading for quite some time now the death of diesel.
Yes.
So would it be correct to say that it's sooner than later?
Well, I think it's going to happen.
Because now with the advent of BS6 and the ban, the 2015-2016 ban on high capacity diesel engines.
Yes.
That was the first hint of what things are going to be. And nearly 7-8 years now, it's a very specific diktat that has come out. So, and how do you see it as some sort of an antidote for curbing pollution levels? Because we are trying everything.
I mean, honestly speaking, BS6 diesel vehicles are extremely clean. At least the BS6 diesel vehicles that adhere to the next level of norms, which are called real driving efficiency, real driving emissions, RDE standards. So BS6 RDE, which will become standard from April 1st, 2023. These cars are very clean. They have filters. They have a mix of urea and water called AdBlue, which is injected into the emissions from the car, into the exhaust, and cuts pollutants even lower. And the problem with diesel was never carbon emissions, it was particulate emissions. It was things like nitrogen oxides, sulfur oxides. Going back, when crude oil is refined, the lowest grades are the gases and petrol. Diesel comes a bit below. Diesel is a longer hydrocarbon chain than petrol, so therefore longer chains have more impurities as well, which is why diesel is dirtier.
While we try so many different things to curb pollution levels, better the air quality, be it odd even, as you mentioned earlier, or it's now the ban, or the shift from BS4 to BS6, or the diesel engine earlier ban that the Supreme Court had implemented.
Yeah.
Where does it leave the owners of such vehicles, because their count must be in lakhs.
Yeah, I mean, surprisingly, these things you hear about when you're writing, I mean, I also know it affected my brother-in-law as well. He had a 10-year-old Audi which he had to sell for peanuts. Even though it was a beautifully maintained car, it had been serviced all the way through. But because he lived in Delhi, and they have a house in Panipat as well, also part of the NCR, and it was a diesel, and he had to get rid of it. And honestly, a car like that, for which he should have got at least double the money,
right,
he didn't get much at all. I mean, I won't say how much he got, but it's the same case no matter what diesel car you own. Anybody who owns a luxury diesel cars knows how much it hurts when you are getting rid of a car. Very often, very, very well maintained, like my brother-in-law's car. It's extremely well maintained.
But the volumes are there in small cars, and as you mentioned in your earlier column, that you also said that it's
demand
sort of it's almost ending now, and it's a big challenge for manufacturers to come up with small diesel engines. And you gave the example of a Hyundai vehicle, I guess.
No, both the i20 and the Venue, for example, the Venue, even though that uses the slightly larger 1.5 liter diesel engine, which is similar to that on the Creta, but without the variable geometry turbocharger, so it's less power. So you won't get into that. But what's happened is, for example, on cars like the Hyundai Venue and the Hyundai i20, diesel demand is less than around 10%. Even for Tata, where you have the Harrier and Safari, which are only diesel demand on the Ultras is under 10%. Maruti has stopped making diesels altogether. Right. So has Skoda Volkswagen, even though they don't make a small car anymore. I think there's also realization that right now there might be an effect on diesel in the NCR, but policymakers and the courts have seen that diesel isn't clean, and we have to move away from private light motor vehicles that operate on diesel. Now you'll still see diesels on heavier SUVs.
Right.
Stuff like the XUV 700 from Mahindra or the Tata Harrier or Safari. I mean, on the Tata Harrier and Safari is only offered in diesel.
Right. And I remember that just about 2 years ago, when, as you mentioned, Skoda, Volkswagen and Maruti, they are not making diesel engines.
Yeah.
But there was also this debate that had come back that it could be a temporary phenomenon and diesels would make a comeback. But now after this, do you see things changing getting back to diesels anyway in say next 5 years, or it could be part of the larger mix that is there?
I don't think so, Anurag, to be very honest. I think this is a global problem. What you had with Dieselgate that affected the Volkswagen Group in the US, and if you don't know about Dieselgate, it was a scandal where Volkswagen was caught cheating on emissions because the car knew it was being tested and went to a leaner mix. That really drove public perception against diesel. Now, why did diesel become so popular? Is because diesels were very efficient.
Right.
And that efficiency you saw on diesels is that, on say a Swift, when the Swift had a diesel engine, a petrol Swift would give you about 13 or 14 kilometers per liter, but a diesel Swift was giving 18, 19, 20 kilometers a liter in the city when diesel was cheaper, and it still is cheaper. Right now you have hybrids, strong hybrids such as the Grand Vitara from Maruti Suzuki and the Toyota Hyryder as well. Now, I've had friends who have taken them long distance, other auto reviewers, and they've told me that they've got 24, 25 kilometers per liter. I had the Honda City hybrid for over a month, and I got 23 kilometers per liter on a decent sized petrol engine. So hybrids aren't as expensive as
you're
EVs.
You're talking about mileage, that is.
Yes, that's why diesel became so popular.
But there is a big chunk of buyers who go for diesels for the performance it delivers. So how do where do they go now? Because the replacement, the smaller petrol engines that have been introduced, almost all of them have the turbochargers attached. So do you think they have been able to do what diesels used to do for those performance-oriented customers?
You want the low-end torque, and you need that when you have a heavy load. I don't see, for example, ladder on frame vehicles or larger SUVs are still primarily diesel. Even the Hyundai Creta is 50% diesel to this day because of popularity of diesel, particularly down south.
Right.
In certain states. For example, I believe in Telangana and Bangalore, sales are almost 80% diesel for the Hyundai Creta, whereas in Delhi or NCR, it's less than 20% diesel. So down south, you don't have this pollution issue so much.
Right.
So people, yes, they're still choosing diesels when they can, because it's still cheaper to run a diesel. And even with the new norms coming in, for which Hyundai Kia will have to make adjustments to the engine, I think buyers will say, no, I'm driving 2,000 kilometers a month, a diesel still makes sense for me.
Right. So if this ban continues to stay for longer, say even if we are out of this poor air pollution patch, where do you see the second-hand car market? Does it sort of do these vehicles travel to other Indian cities and maybe pollute them?
That's usually, I won't say pollute them. I I know people I was actually talking to a peer who's from Kerala,
right.
And he's saying how his friends come to Delhi to look at some of these older BMWs, Audis and Mercedes, even Hyundai Cretas that are now almost 10 years old,
right.
And you get them at great throwaway prices, and they put them all in a container, take them down to Cochin or Trivandrum and sell them there because you get great value. But I think the overall push, the fact that many manufacturers are not making diesels anymore, and it's come out recently that Toyota has stopped making diesel engines on the Innova Krista,
right.
And the next generation Innova, which they are going to showcase later this month, will not have a diesel motor at all. So even the Innova doesn't have a diesel anymore. So I think that's because Toyota and their partners Maruti have said it's all hybrid. I think everybody's seen I don't think the government has said this in so many words, but I think they've seen the light and saying, okay, diesel's had its time in the sun, and as the cars get to 15 years, 10 years in NCR or 15 years outside NCR.
I know I'll be repeating this question, but because I'm a little more curious about it, I would take my chance.
Do you have a diesel car?
I don't have a diesel car, but I just want to know, because diesel and the ban on diesel is one side of the story, it's one side of the coin. On the other side is the electric push, the hydrogen push, the other fuel mix push that is being brought in our country. So because any policy decision is taken at any point in time with the amount and the kind and quality of data that's available, do you see that maybe 15 years down the line, new data sets come in and the narrative changes completely, that find, as you mentioned, that new diesel engines, the BS6 ones, are cleaner, much cleaner. So do you, again, I'm
15 years is too long. I cannot, I don't know what's going to happen in 15 years. I'm going to say that we are going to, it's also an industry in a huge amount of flux.
Right.
We are moving electric. Of that, there is no doubt, right? We are going, more and more electric cars are coming. I recently drove this amazing Mercedes-Benz EQS AMG electric car, which blew my mind.
Right.
You're getting performance cars that are electrics now.
Right.
Teslas have been performance for a while. Right. I believe in 2 years' time, you'll have a lot more choice of electrics. By 2024, you'll have a lot more electrics from the larger car makers as well. So, but then, of course, the question is going to come on lithium. Where are we getting the lithium from? Where are we getting the cobalt from? Where are we getting the nickel from?
Right.
and we are using coal to generate that power. What is the carbon cost of an electric car?
Right.
So maybe it might come out that having an internal combustion engine could actually be better from a long-term carbon perspective than having an EV today. But again, the maths, the equation changes. I mean, today we are generating X amount on thermal.
Right.
Tomorrow, if our solar goals and our wind goals and our renewable goals are serious.
Yeah. So you talked about, Kushan mentioned about the flux that the auto industry is witnessing, and that flux is very closely associated with the upcoming 2023 Auto Expo. And it's not just this recent ban, but a lot of other issues are impacting manufacturers. All the policy changes that are coming in are impacting them. So there was this recent report which mentioned that car manufacturers a lot of them aren't very keen on getting to the January 2023 event. Why is that? And how is it that things change in 3 years? Because the last time it happened, it was in 2020, before the pandemic.
Well, I wish I could give you a very honest. I had a word with Rajan Menon, who is the Secretary General of the Society of Indian Automotive Manufacturers, SIAM, which is the industry body which also organizes the Auto Expo. Now, I did a column on this, which you can read, but that was basis Times of India report that said none of the two-wheeler manufacturers are taking part, virtually. So 99% of the market representation in the two-wheeler market is not taking part in Auto Expo. And many large manufacturers are not taking part in Auto Expo, even four-wheelers. You have Mahindra not taking part. Mahindra has done very well with the XUV and the Scorpio. You also have Honda, BMW, Mercedes, the entire Volkswagen group, whether it's Skoda, Volkswagen and Audi. None of them are taking part. So a significant number of car makers are not taking part. I don't know why exactly, but I had a chat with the
because the reasons that have come out, like I saw, because none of them have been named, someone said that it's the distance that's also playing a spoil sport, because earlier it used to be organized in Delhi, and Greater Noida is distant. I don't see that as that big a reason, because it's not the first time that the event is being moved.
It was still packed in 2020, and 2020 was actually the first Auto Expo in the Exposition Center in Greater Noida when the Greater Noida metro line had started. Many people use the metro, even though the Greater Noida line isn't really connected very well to the Delhi line. You need to take a bus between. There's no proper interchange, but there's a metro station right there. It's a 5-minute walk from the metro station. Yes, early January. Yes, it's not easy for the car makers and the journalists.
Yeah, someone also quoted a weather, I guess.
It's early January. I mean, last time it was in February, but early January is awful. I mean, I know I'll have to drive there at 6 in the morning, and I don't want to. But the other major reason, I spoke to the communications head, the PR head of a major car maker which is taking part in Auto Expo, and what that gentleman told me was quite simple. I don't see a return on investment.
Okay.
They're going to do a lot, this major car maker. They're going to showcase new cars, they're going to do all of that. But they said, at the end of the day, you only have so much space, even online media, even sites like ThePrint, right? You can only do so much. You can't, how many videos can you do on every car? And you rather don't want your vehicle to be lost in a sea of other vehicles. So I'm sure Maruti, Hyundai and Tata don't want the vehicles lost in each other.
Right. Kushan, I'm going to draw in your tricky territory. Do you think that it's some sort of messaging from the industry?
I don't think it's messaging. I don't think it's messaging to the industry.
Because it's a flagship event which draws crowd.
I don't think it's messaging
from other countries, and so Because India has an big automobile market.
I don't think it is.
Will it not impact India's image?
No, it won't. I think this is a global shift against auto shows. I think many countries are seeing auto shows, large automotive shows, slowly become smaller. Even in the old IAA, which you see, the Frankfurt Auto Show is not as big now. It's moved to Munich. Okay. It's not as big as it used to be. The Birmingham Show is not as big as it used to be. The Paris Motor Show just happened. That isn't as big as it used to be.
Right.
I think with media also shifting, with everything moving online, with not just online, on social media, you want to build up your hype accordingly. Now, the earlier point you also mentioned is correct. While Greater Noida is now connected by metro, Pragati Maidan in central Delhi was Pragati Maidan, and as many of us who live in Delhi know, Pragati Maidan is being redone for the last. It's going to be open next year, I believe, at the G20. So maybe the Auto Expo after 2023, if they come back, I don't know how they'll do it. But car makers genuinely feel, or we want our own car to shine on its own day, and it makes life a bit tough for guys like me, because we have to run around every second day to different events. Auto Expo is, for better or for worse, very convenient, because you can do 5 or 6 launches, and then yes, you can stagger the media, but I think they have their point. They want their return on investment.
Right. But we are still 2 months away from that event, so yeah, things might change. I also read somewhere some sort of persuasion is also on from.
Yes.
And you mentioned it.
Yeah, I did. I spoke to Rajan Menon of SIAM, as I said, and he said there's still 2.5 months to go. He didn't want to be drawn into anything else, and why it's not taken off. But I do have a point to make. Why the two-wheeler makers are not taking part is they're saying it's an auto expo, and auto in the sense it's four-wheeler.
Right.
They feel that two-wheelers get lost.
Right.
Maybe, India is the world's largest two-wheeler market. Maybe you can have separate shows for cars and for two-wheelers. God knows. But yeah, it's I don't think it's a message that car makers are trying to send policymakers. I think car makers do get upset with policymakers, make no mistakes. They do get upset saying, make up your minds. But overall, last few years, there is the concept of lower carbon emissions is quite clearly established. Car makers do want to.
It may be a global phenomenon of shrinking of such events on the calendar year, but for auto lovers, it's that time of the year where they want to go and see, even if they can't afford most of it, they just for the.
No, I mean, if they want to go and see, I believe Hyundai is calling Shah Rukh Khan.
Ideation is the key, and that's at display.
You get to see the concepts. You get to see, it sounds, Shah Rukh Khan will come for the Hyundai event, right? I mean, you're going to have lots of people there.
2020 he was here.
2020 he was there. I met him as well. But he's going to be there again. But it's not the same. I mean, things have changed. I'll be honest. I mean, post the Me Too movement, you don't have the concept of, I won't say pretty girls around the cars, but that's also gone away. I think what you did in the past, auto show is not the same, and it's happening across the world. So I'm not surprised that Auto Expo in India is also sort of petering out.
Well, in that case, we'll have to wait and watch. With that, we come to yet another episode of The Print Dashboard. Hope you like it. Thanks, Kushan.
Thank you, Anurag.